Hi everyone, welcome to ET 520, Biblical and Practical Peacemaking. My name is Ron Sanders and I'll be your professor for the quarter. Really looking forward to getting to know you. I wish we could do this class in person, but we'll get to know each other virtually, which will be good. Please feel free to call me Ron. I'm fine with that, happy with that. If you would like to, Dr. Sanders is fine as well, but I probably would prefer Ron. So yeah, each week in this class, I'll probably send out a video or I'll send out an announcement on Sunday night on how to have a successful week for the week. So here is this how to have a successful week for week 1 and maybe some categories and some big picture for this class. So we're going to talk about biblical and practical peacemaking. The first half of the class, we're going to be looking at a couple of models for peacemaking. One by Lisa Cahill that will be found in your reading that you'll start this week from Blessed Are the Peacemakers. And then the second model from Interfaith Just Peacemaking, which we'll talk more about when we get to. But that book is a progression from Glenn Stasson's work on just peacemaking, and then his second work on the 10 practices of peacemaking from an ecumenical Christian perspective, and then this work, which he contributed to but wasn't the editor of, which is interfaith peacemaking, between looking at differences on the 10 practices between the Muslim tradition, the Jewish tradition, and the Christian tradition. And so we'll be looking at, in the first half of the class, the basis for these 10 practices of peacemaking, which we need to kind of understand in the context of traditional Christian understandings of perspectives on using violence in order to, in justified cases, to move towards justice. And so on one side is the pacifists, and on the other side are the just war theorists. And you'll have a range of pacifisms and a range of just war theories that we'll look at, but we're going to get the kind of basic architecture for each of those positions. And then we're going to situate the peacemaking practices inside and in between those two positions. So we'll look at how they fit with in the pacifist tradition, and then how they also can fit within the just war tradition. So that will be the first half of the class, and then the back half of the class we'll be looking at kind of practical ways to apply the biblical and practical peacemaking methods that we looked at in the first half of the class. So the first half will end on the 5th week with your midterm essay. So I say this not to put any fear in you, but just to say that with the midterm essay, I'll be publishing a study guide soon in the next, probably week 2, the beginning of week 2 for that, so that you can shape your reading and you can pay attention specifically in your reading to some of the things that I'm looking for in the essay. But basically what I'm going to ask in that essay is for you to kind of compare and contrast different models of peacemaking from Lisa Cahill and from Interfaith Just Peacemaking together with one another in relationship to pacifism and just war theory, and being able to articulate kind of the range of those two specific traditions. And so, yeah, that's what will be the midterm essay, and that'll be week 5. You'll have a group project in week 8, and then a final paper with the topic of your choosing. So hopefully something in class has sparked your interest, or you have a peacemaking kind of problem that you want to solve, and you'll apply some of the principles to that in your final project or final paper. But that's way down the road, and we'll talk about that more in the back half of the class. For this week specifically, the things that I'd like you to do is, one, you have to get the rhythm of the class. So there's some reading each week, usually, apart from the weeks where you have a big assignment like a midterm or your group project. You'll have selected readings. They may range from 40 to 50 pages to, this week especially, there's kind of a higher number of pages, like probably 150 or so. And you read the assigned readings. You have a quiz at the end of the week on Friday, and the quiz is going to ask you what percentage of the readings you completed. So all you have to do is just complete the readings, and you'll get 100% on those quizzes. And then you have a journal reflection. And that journal reflection is not a summary of the argument of the readings. It is your journal reflections on how the reading struck you, what you found interesting, maybe enlightening, something that you might have learned, or something that you might even want to quibble with, something that you're thinking about after the readings, etc. So those are your kind of, it'd be just like you're writing in a journal in order to just reflect on the readings or something that struck you. And then what I want you to do is, that's by Friday, and the general rule is like about 10 minutes of writing, maybe around 300 words. And then I'd like you to respond to one or two persons in the class on their reflections. And so you read them, maybe 100 word response. Sometimes they're longer, sometimes shorter. It's okay. I'm not looking for a specific word count every time. But I am looking for you to participate and be in the conversation together with your classmates, because that's where you're going to grow, and that's where a lot of learning takes place. As you interact, you see how other people are looking at their readings and stuff, and how what they're taking in, and then compare that to what you're taking in. So you'll have to get the rhythm of that pretty quickly. I'm not going to count you down if you don't get it this first week just perfectly. That's okay. We have to kind of find our bearings. Everybody has to find their bearings in the class, especially if you haven't taken a class from me before. And so, this is kind of find your bearings. There'll be moments in the course of the quarter where you'll be able to catch up with some readings and go back and say, hey, now I've completed 100% of the reading. So just don't stress about it. Do your best to get it done. This is my attempt to say that part of the class is just working hard, keeping up with the conversation, and you'll get 100% on that part of the class. So you have 2 readings this week. One from a chapter in Kingdom Ethics called Doing, Not Dualism. And this is Glenn Stasson's exposition of the Sermon on the Mount. And so you'll read that. I think that's about 14 pages. And then you'll begin your readings in chapters 1 through 4 of Blessed Are the Peacemakers. And that's a little longer, pages 1 through 138. So it's about 150 pages this week. That will get you started on kind of just war theory, pacifism, and some kind of initial and nascent stages of peacemaking. So that's kind of how, and then the other thing that I'd like you to do, is jump into the introduction form early in the class, and then introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you. There's some question prompts in that forum to answer, but you can answer more of them, or it doesn't have to be exactly that, but just in such a way, answer them in such a way that people can get to know you in the class, and you can begin to interact with each other, get to know each other's background a little bit, and see what's interesting to you about them, or why they're interested in the class, etc. So jump into that quickly in the early stages of the week, and then as you're going along, just read each other's comment, and then do your reading along the way, and then you'll have the quiz on Friday and the journal reflection on Friday. Okay, so that's how to have a successful week this week. I'm really excited about the course. I usually teach it in the spring semester, so that's usually fun and interesting in relationship to some of the things that happens in the United States in the spring, especially around Supreme Court cases that are being decided. And then it's usually a fun class. We have a TA for this class. Her name is Cynthia Anderson. She was a former student of mine, did really well in this course, and I've asked her to be the teaching assistant, and she'll add a lot of value to our class, and I'm really excited to have her. So get to know her a little bit, and then introduce yourself and get to know your classmates. So again, really looking forward to getting to know you all, and hearing a little bit about your story in the introduction forums, and then we'll hit the ground running tomorrow. Have a great class.